generational curses, abandonment, even tearing apart from a sibling. There's a lot of wounds that can open up as we grow, especially when we end up in the foster system. I hope you stick around because we're going to hear kind of the deep end of that system and what can be done now to start moving things in a better direction. Hi guys, welcome back to the Christian Influencer Podcast. I am Alex, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Brian.
Hey everybody!
You're so weird sometimes. Okay, anyway, so we've got a special guest with us today. We've got Constance English with us. She's got a really powerful testimony and a lot of zeal, so I'm excited about this conversation. We're going to get to see it go in some cool places. But Constance, why don't we just start with kind of introduce us to who you are, what you do, and what's your ministry that you're working with.
So my name is Constance English. I am the executive director of Siblings United Visitations. So what Siblings United Visitations is a nonprofit that is geared towards foster youth and sibling preservation. I am a former foster youth. I'm also the eldest of 6 kids, and I'm parentified. There's a 7-year age gap between my siblings and I. When we were separated in the foster care system, I never got an option if I was going to be able to stay and maintain that placement with my siblings. Since I was the eldest and most of the trauma happened with me with the being molested, growing up in a very bad neighborhood. My sisters was 8 months old, a 4-year-old, 5-year-old. They wanted them, but they didn't want me. Fortunately for me, we had the Oklahoma state law did not separate kids, so I got to go with my siblings eventually, but they separated us so they can make sure that I didn't taint the little kids. That's how they said it.
You did get to link up with them later, but you were separated initially.
Yeah. So no, what happened was it was my great aunt. So that's why I tell people is very careful. We had generational trauma that happened before I was even born that I really don't know, but she's the one that wanted to get us, but she only wanted the little ones because she couldn't have kids. So she didn't want the 12-year-old. So we were in Oklahoma. She was in San Diego. She was calling me, telling me that the only way they were going to let my sisters go if I testify in court against my mom to make her lose her right, because we still had to build to my mom. But because so many bad things happened to me, I got scared because of stuff. She's a social worker, by the way. She's telling me like, hey, if you want them to be safe and not that stuff happen to you, you got to testify in court against your mom and understand I can't take you, but I could take them. So I was okay with that because I just didn't want bad stuff to happen to my sisters. So I went and I testified in court against my mom, which was her niece. My grandmother's sister is the one that took us. So they was in court for a whole year not to get me after that. So we kept getting shipped to different foster homes in Oklahoma because they were trying to find ways to disconnect me from the little ones. Eventually, a judge made an order that unless she takes all of us, she couldn't have them. So they eventually just took all of us. But since my grandma had 4 other sisters, they started shopping me around to the different houses while my sisters stayed at her house.
Okay.
So that was not great at all.
Yeah.
You know,
When
because
you shop at other houses, is this like a foster program?
no, I was with my family that I never met that were bougie and always was correcting the way I talk, making fun of me because I grew up and, didn't give me a chance, at all. So the most I could do was like cook, clean, go to school, stay out of trouble while they went to like Disneyland, all these different trips. And the only thing that made me happy was they were good with my sisters. But I didn't get to see them as often or do things as often as I want. And my sisters, before with them always being excited to see me, it's kind of like, who are you in a way type thing. And when I would complain to the social workers, like, because that's all I had was my sisters, like, hey, I want to see my sisters. I want to do this. They're like, oh, well, if you start complaining, the law, we'll have to send you back to Oklahoma with all your, like, you guys all would have to come because they didn't separate kids. Because I was the one complaining, saying I didn't want to be here. She was like, but your sisters are doing good, so you should be okay that they're doing good. So I had to suck it up that I wasn't being treated right. And it even sucked because this is family that you don't know and you can't really run at this point because you can't go back to foster care and you're with family, even though you never met these people and they're judging you and they're telling you all these stories about your family that you do know that you're like, I didn't know this stuff, and you're like, what does this got to do with me? whatever you guys are harboring, basically adult problems becoming my problems that I'm not really aware
That
of.
sounds like blackmail.
No, my grandpa was a pimp, and he used to beat the crap out of my grandma, and they had to watch her go through that. And he was a womanizer, and he ended up leaving her for the lady later in life I would call grandma, and having 3 kids with her. So my mom was the only one that was outside their marriage because he was leaving my grandma, and they had a contentious relationship because for 5 years of that they were fighting each other because he still was sleeping with them. So they'll always tell me all this bad stuff about my grandpa. But the thing is, my grandpa was a pastor when I knew my grandpa.
Oh,
I don't know any of this stuff. And so they're telling me all this stuff. And I'm like, what? This is horrible. But what are you telling me these things for when this man is a good man? This man has all these grandkids. He's doing all these great things. And I'm just like, why? What do you get by telling people stuff like this? You know what I mean? When I don't know him like that. And so it was very hurtful to hear these things and knowing the things he did and not understand why is that like I don't know what all I know is him as a pastor, so it was very hurtful to be in those situations and not understand when I love that family. They're poor, but we stuck together. We slept in bed together. We ate together. My grandpa had 63 grandchildren. I was the first one born on his birthday. So it was very close knit family. He's the reason why my mom didn't get an abortion with me when they kicked her out the house because they raised my mom and they kicked her out the house when they found out she was pregnant with me. And she went and she found her biological dad, which is my grandpa. So he's the one that told her not to get abortion. Then I was the first one born on his birthday. So it's like we're very, very close. So to hear this bad stuff about him that was not very healthy. So being in a house where you're not liked and not knowing why and knowing that's your family, that even more hurtful because you don't know where do you run. You don't have nowhere to run. You're displaced. You don't have nowhere to run. So anyways, because that, I just didn't believe in God for one. So I was believing God, but then when all that bad stuff happened, it was just really hard to believe because I'm like, why all this bad stuff keep happening? You go from one hell to another. So I started thinking, where does this all happen and start and take place? When my sisters and I got in foster care, I decided to never say anything bad. I refused to say anything bad because I wanted their future to be good. I felt like this was a good start. No matter what sacrifices I have to take, I need to make sure that the generation trauma starts with me. At that time, I didn't know what that was. At that time, I just knew never to talk to them about bad stuff because they were always so happy when I saw them. So I would just, go with it, and be good to them, talk to them, never say nothing bad to them about my aunts. Every now and then they'll see us bicker. Like if they were too mean to me, my hood stuff would defend myself. Like you got me, like don't, talk to me. After a few incidents of them seeing how far I'm willing to go to defend myself, we kind of just distance ourselves. So once I got out of foster care, I went back to the hood because I didn't have a home there in San Diego. I went back to Bakersfield with my grandpa them. And my family embraced me. I went to college because I wanted something better because they kept telling me I was never going to amount to nothing, like I was going to be like them. I went back to the very place that raised me. And not only so much so, when I got my apartment, the guy that originally gave us an apartment in the hood and stuff, he told me one of those apartments were free. The same apartment I grew up in when he gave my mom her first apartment. And that apartment was disgusting. Someone destroyed it. He let me move there for free as long as I, be patient or whatever. So I had to do the cleaning myself. So I called a bunch of friends and stuff that came. The floors were all jacked up that people donated their bathroom rugs to me so we could put it in the apartment and whatnot. After a couple of months, every month he'll come and say, hey, it's time for us to fix the apartment. And then it's like I did the floors. I stayed in that apartment for 8 years, by the way. The community remember my family and their gang-ridden days and stuff. And it was so different. The older generation pouring into me. I had a guy across the street. His name was Buki. He fixed cars. He gave me a car and he would fix up my car and stuff like the brakes and stuff. Make sure everyone was just so happy I was going to college. And my last name is English, and everybody knows my last name for my grandpa putting hands on people back in the day, being a pastor. My uncle them slinging my name is known. So it was very different to be known in that way, where everyone wanted to pour into me. People was throwing out my trash. They would make me food. food. They know I was going to school. Then a guy at the liquor store down the street that remember me, he was letting me get food for free. But then he'll call me and tell me that I have to come and unload the boxes, the trucks, and stuff like that. Everything just worked in my favor, even though you wouldn't think that. The same hood that I left came back to just embracing me in a whole different way. And I have a whole different outside light of that. And my dad name is Richard Bolden. And I always tell people it's not big thing, but he's Caucasian, you know. He took me in. He's my dad. I'm about to change my last name to his, but he did so much for me. Like I did not know how to build or anything until him. Like we got to redo your windows. We got to redo your, we got to do your. The apartment became so brand new that he put an alarm on it because he was scared that someone was going to come and take my stuff because he'll let me go pick out my scene, pick out my stuff, and it was very very nice. And he told me I couldn't get a carpet instilled. You don't put carpet in areas like that because people will mess it up. So I went behind his back and got carpet. After 3 years, he told me that my rent was going to be $300 a month, and I had to give him $300 deposit. And he still owes me $300. By the way, he never gave me my deposit back when I left because he said I did carpet. But even though I stayed there for 8 years, so I always tell him he owes me $300 on interest because he took my money. But but anyways, he did very good. So I went to school during that time. I went and got my first job at a residential treatment center, and then I went to school. Got my bachelor's, and I went and I wanted to know why did my case not get the credit it deserved. We have all these people that say they help kids. What do they do in their position? And I'm a very inquisitive person. Instead of getting facts from people, I'm not man-based facts. I need actual documentation, life experience facts. And that's why, of course, like earlier when I was explaining, I read the Bible first before I went to church. I'm one of those people that have to see stuff for myself. So I worked every position you can think of in child welfare services just to see the capacity and limited ability when it comes to decision making in the foster care system. And so after working I get bored after 6 months. I have ADHD really bad. I would say this. What I did do was I was in college when I started Crystal. I say that because it was college and it was at a study group
Okay.
to stay up, and then it worked for me, and I was on it. I ended up being on it for 8 years. It was a silent on it because I didn't know how to get it except for school. But I tell people also it numbed me to the rejection I didn't understand that I was getting from that family. And then my sisters not really wanting to talk to me, and that's all I had. Like I felt numb and I was okay kind of with it. So it allowed me to kind of function. And I just stopped it because I didn't know how to get it or not. But I never want someone else to feel like that. So I try to figure out what capabilities does child welfare worker holds? Is it their supervisor? Is it, if it's a government thing, or is it a personal decision making thing? And what I learned is really a personal decision making thing because I never did a removal. I never did any of that. I always work with the tools with kids. It's like I started learning there's a very fine line between job duties and mission seeking. When you have people that are in job duty tasks, you have job duty results and limitation of how cases are run because they got to get out before 5 because they got their life. Versus a mission seeker that their whole goal is to make sure that kids thrive in the system. You have more job task doers than you do mission seekers in a child welfare services, which is hurts our community. A lot of people don't put emphasis on how important it is for siblings to stay united because we're not involved with parents that are making bad decisions. We don't know any of those things. We don't understand those things. That has nothing beyond us. But if anything, we have a shared journey and shared experience together, and we deserve the right to be together and heal together in any capacity. The same way they make group homes for a whole bunch of different kids and stuff like that in different ages, they can make a foster home where they hire the staff to be around the clock for that family set to stay together. There's so many different things that we can do and think outside the box, but people limit themselves into that. It's like, oh, this kid bad, let me put him in a house with bad kids. Well, if you teach me how to steal a car and now you put me with other criminals, but now I know how to rob a bank. Now I know how to do things. Now you're putting all the skill sets together. Is that going to make me better? No, it's going to make me kind of worse because now I'm developing skill sets I didn't have. So every time I come out, I'm worse because I'm learning a different skill set versus if you would have kept me where I was at and put more services in place, I could have thrived, right? So I started thinking, people do a lot of removals like it's puppy shipping without thinking the damage that's going to be done long term. They think that once kids turn 18 they can get back together. You can't get back together someone you don't know or you don't understand, right? Because now your enemies are your strangers to each other. You know you're related, but then that process that takes you into getting, how many stories do you guys have with your siblings of someone punched, like my brother, like used to tickle me to death, and I used to pee on myself when I used to do bad stuff. Him and his friends, like all those little brothers and sister fighting things, you can't develop that with a grown adult. Those
That's
stuff,
true.
you cannot, like you try to do something like that, it's gonna end to blows
Yeah.
or something like that. Versus the little nuances that you do with sibling rivalry and stuff like that. Those things are real, but you no longer have that bond and that aspect that can be developed with two adults trying to understand each other. It's like because that person's already misunderstood so much, they're not trying to make another adult understand whether you're family or not. So they go and now they're by themselves. They feel alone. They feel abandoned. They feel all these things, but they wouldn't have had that if their unity was never broken from the beginning. So I feel like more emphasis need to be on the emotional toll and damage and displacement that comes for siblings being separated. So I decided to start Siblings United visitations because first it starts with the visitations. The judge the judge orders for you to have visitation, but they do the bare minimum because they don't want the county being held liable, which makes sense because the social worker has like 50 people on the case. They can't make sure every kid get a visit. That's 10, 20 hours a week. So they give you the bare minimum 2 hours. Sometimes that doesn't even happen, but the judge doesn't hear about it until the 6 month, 12-month, 18-month hearings. That's how far the judge waits out. So he's expecting you when you leave that you're going to be following his rules. He doesn't know until the 6 month happen hearing, like, what do you mean that they didn't have nobody? What do you mean? So there's nobody keeping an upkeep with the judge for him to know those things. And that's how the county gets away with all those things. So I'm like, I'm now here to stop all that. I said, because kids need deserve to be together and people need to know what they're doing is damaging to our ecosystem. When foster kids are labeled, like just like how I was labeled because I was molested and all this thing, I was automatically labeled that I wasn't going to thrive. So they didn't invest anything into me. They didn't pour into me. Foster kids, when they talk about children of tomorrow, foster kids are not created in that aspect of the children of tomorrow when they're very much so the children of tomorrow. So I want to be able to teach people, hey, let's pour into them. Because I remember I was telling you, you're either going to be the recipient of the future car jacking or the future car salesman. We got to make sure these kids are included in the future tomorrow. We got to make sure their identity is within intact. One of the things is it's like generational trauma. What's it called? Survival mode. All these kids are exiting out of survival mode and displaying the characteristics of survival mode because no one never taught them how to be anything but survivors, and they still in survival mode or whatever they enter in. So we created Siblings United visitations. What we do, we ask businesses, hey, give me 25 tickets a week, 25 tickets a month, or one $500 donation. One of the places we have is Sky Zone. Another place is a Jump Palace, and we're working on arcade. With those 25 tickets, our kids now, instead of going 2 hours into a county building where they're getting location trauma, because sometimes those buildings are very traumatic because that's where you're first removed or bad things happen, or sometimes you go and wait for your siblings or your parent and no one shows up. So then kids get antsy or anger or behavior when they see the building. So why are we steady putting them in that building when we see the bad reactions? Because now those are long-term, what I call core memories that are being developed, but it's being developed by the system that's raising us. It's not being developed by anybody else. I tell people one thing's for sure, we're only displaced and separated from our families once. We are abandoned time and time again by the system, by the social worker, that every new social worker you meet, every new caseworker you meet, all these different people that's moving with different positions, getting moved up and all these different things. Those things deeply affect us because you're constantly repeating your story so much so that you stop repeating it and become mute and silence because you have not seen any results from you repeating it.
Right.
So it's like, you're like, whatever is going to happen. So you take matters into your own hands. So
Well, I love it. You're letting them go to an arcade or a bouncing a trampoline park or something. This is what kids. That's what
we
kids do.
wanted to go with their siblings.
Right.
They shouldn't be in the building. And I told them another thing that we're doing is the $500 is, let's say the person want to be in an art class, they want to be in ballet. These kids don't get to do a lot of stuff because you always have to go through all these hoops just to get someone to approve it. Just like the person, we have money for that, the social, and then they never come back. So I want to be that sister and say, hey, if you want to do that, I'm going to pay for it. That's what the $500 is for me to pay for their activities. One of the biggest things that we have a problem with the siblings visits, and this is no kid. If you got a foster home that has the max they can have is 6 kids, but they got all these different kids in the home. It's hard for that one person to get kids to visits, get to. So transportation is a huge issue in our community. So now I want to develop. I have a for-profit transportation services that was for animals that I'm switching into foster kids to become a Uber for foster kids. I want to be the one to get them not only to their visits, but also to the activities that they're doing so then they can be able to thrive. I want to create a form that is going directly to the judge. I want it to say I want them to be able to go online and schedule these visits, social workers and stuff. And I want my team to be able to go and tell who contacted who was involved, who are all these things. So the judge just has one paper that he has to look at and he can see it monthly and it's a glance over. So he don't have to wait to 6 months to figure out people are not doing their job and he can step in like real quick to make sure people are accountable, especially when it comes to that. So it's like a whole ecosystem. So I tell people it's not a rat on the social workers. It's trying to improve the system because you see all the problems from within. You want to create those problems, create you want to fill that void and deficit, not be like bad, 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 bad. Because a lot of it is they're just overworked. They're underpaid. They don't have a lot of things and you got to understand that. Yeah. And it's like, once you understand that, you try to develop a system that helps everybody, not just the kid. Ultimately, it's me for the kids, but also I wanted to help the judge, the social worker, the lawyer. My book, when I wrote my book, after each chapter, it is 7 questions that pertains to my chapter, for one for the kid, one for the birth parent, one for the innocent bystanders that are the neighbors, are the nephrim, are the teachers that couldn't do something. Also one for the church family, one for the judge, one for the lawyer. If you saw this case come out, so it's questions, reflective questions after each chapter. I didn't want just my story to be out there because we have millions of stories. How can my story embody the hope that these kids need? And I want to heal us. I want to heal change. I now want to be able to create professional foster kids. I told people professional foster kids mean not only did I live the experience, I now am educated enough to sit on these boards to tell you guys like, hey, that's great you have these programs, but this is how it can help us as a recipient of said services. And I don't want to be I want to be a professional foster kid because I got to reclaim our name back to give hope to these kids. And I will be the first one to step out. And who I'm targeting are other professional foster kids that are embarrassed to be recognized because of the shame, the guilt, and the bad label that comes with it. Hey, our little brothers and sisters needs us right now. We need to go in the trenches and share our stories of hope to be able to create, because what I noticed, this is more of a legislation issue. It's not something that can be helped. No matter how much I want to help, it can never be helped enough because I'm not big enough. But if we all join together to help our little brothers and sisters, change could come because we're advocating for them. That's why I did Maslow hierarchy of needs are so important for the foster care system in the Bible. I can't force kids to Christ, but what I can say, that's why I said the relationship with God is so important for balance, because we feel so abandoned and jaded. It will give you comfort and peace to know that you're not the only one this happened to, and it was years and years and years ago. Remember Joseph and his life, the jacket, and being displaced, and his brothers, and all these other different things. A lot of those stories resonate with abandonment within us, but also it shows you who's our savior. Amen. It shows you who's for us. And I'm not saying you have to be perfect. That's why I want to teach kids too. Remember I said I was hood reading the Bible, going crazy, but it's still then over time, God learns to teach you how to heal yourself, right? Through it. And it's not you healing yourself. It's you just doing his works. You follow the Bible, you naturally will start letting go of all those things that created the void that you have. Sorry, I mean.
Oh, you're fine. So there's a lot to be said there too about there's the salvation that we get, but there's also the sanctification process that we walk from that point on, and that takes a process. That takes some time too, and especially when we have wounds as deep as things from generational curses that are entering in, and then you have entering into abandonment issues and tearing apart of your safety nets, which were your siblings around you. I mean, it was just one by one, everything being plucked out to where you feel like you're truly alone. If there's ever a person that needed to know that there's someone who's with you the whole time.
That's why I tell kids go to the Bible,
That's right.
and they be like, I cuss. I don't care what you do. Don't listen to other people right now. So
Just
I'm like, listen to
listen to
me.
him.
Yeah,
Listen to
like I'm
him.
telling you, go to even if you could just Google little scriptures here and there, or getting a Bible, like a Bible study. I tell them just start small. Go to the Bible study. I tell them church is great. I love church. But remember, I said that's just a blip. I'd rather you go to Bible study or go to some type of group, because what I notice is potluck in a group, is community in a group. You learn to develop different relationships. That's why Young Life is so powerful. They don't, we only preach the Bible 10 minutes. We do a whole bunch of fun games like Wildin' Out, where all the high school, junior high kids want to be around you because you're doing so much fun stuff. But the last 10 minutes, we make stories that are applicable for today from then, so the kids can relate. And then we take them to camp, and that's when they make that true transformation. We don't force it. We just do it by leadership and example. So I'm like, kids need to know that. And it's like, you can't force it, especially when kids are so broken and they have trust issues. That's why you give it to them in their hands to build that relationship on their own. And you put them in the circles that they need to be in to be able to have it, because it's needed for our community, because that's the first balance. Once you give that balance of their spiritual aspect, that's when you can go to their educational psyche aspect. And that's where the Maslow hierarchy of needs, like a person, if they're still in survival mode and they still got food insecurities that created that, they're not going to get out that survival mode until they understand what the food insecurity is doing to their development and how they can move up to the next level.
Right.
So it's like they can reach their true potential once they find which survival mode they're in. So we created a curriculum, and altogether there's 20 weeks. So every week we go through a different survival mode, and I created an 11-page booklet that the kids go through. If they go through 20 weeks, they're going to find their survival mode, like either within weekend 3, 2, or maybe 20. But you're going to have the steps to get out of that, and then that's how you reach your full potential.
That's beautiful. So listen, I want to make sure we honor our time, because I know we're coming up on the clock. If somebody wants to learn more about your ministry and what they can do to help it, where would they go to look for it?
I would say Siblings United Visitations. Our website is almost done. It's been in transition. Another thing, anyone can always reach out to me, Serenity Sage 82, at whether it be Gmail, whether it be what's it called? Instagram, social media, Facebook, the Serenity Sage 82. You can find me. I'm all over the place. And then my telephone number is 725-256-4737. That's just some of the things that we do.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing too. And what a powerful story. I mean, there's a lot there that needs to get unpacked, and you're certainly diving into a need. So appreciate that you saw the need and you're diving into it. God bless you, and hope that your ministry is going to continue to thrive. For those of you, actually, Brian, do you got anything before we close out?
Oh, that was incredible. Like, obviously, it's like you're either gonna go one way or the other. You're gonna either survive, persevere, and push forward hard when you're in the foster care program, or you're just gonna let it eat
Right.
you up.
Yeah, we can let our past define us or refine us.
Uplifting that
Absolutely.
process.
Yeah, beautiful,
Thank you.
beautiful. Well, for those of you who are chiming in, I hope you got a lot out of that. Thank you for joining us. Remember, if you follow Christ, you're already an influencer. Together, we are CIC. God bless.